from Chicago and the Philippines. A comprehensive review of the week's special community events, featuring many exciting personalities, handled by the most professional Chicago Philippine Reports TV staff.
Good afternoon and welcome to Chicago Philippine Reports TV, still the #1 in all the Filipino shows in the Midwest. And I'm Joe Mauricio. Today we have all the top stories from Chicago and the Philippines. We also have our segment host, Veronica, interesting interviews with Melody Rabor Dizon, our Health Matters host, and Joe Mauricio, myself. And I would like to introduce to you Janet Jordy, our new host from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, introducing her Global Inspirations interviews. We also have happening within our own Filipino community here in Chicago. All these are coming up and more from our sponsors. Please stay with us.
Philippine Senator Risa Ontiveros urging the government to improve its strategy on building public confidence on COVID-19 vaccines. Ontiveros says local government units and the health department must work together to prevent the spread of misinformation on the vaccines. She also calls on government to broadcast vaccine education programs suited to different regions next year. A survey last month showed more than 30% of Filipinos do not want to get vaccinated against COVID-19. The health department believes the vaccine hesitancy is due to the Dengvaxia controversy a couple of years ago.
That's why there were instances in 2018 and 2019 where the measles coverage was low. Fortunately, we were able to bring back the vaccine confidence, and more mothers have brought their children to the health centers.
The health agency plans to further increase the vaccine confidence of Filipinos through community engagement led by a task force. Various countries are now working on their vaccination programs, with the United Kingdom having already started with its mass inoculation. The U.S. regulators released the first scientific evaluation of Pfizer's vaccine. The Food and Drug Administration confirms the drug was highly effective. The agency is set to meet with experts this week to discuss the emergency use approval of Pfizer's vaccine.
I expect a very intense meeting with the advisor committee. I think they will vote yes, given the strength of the data, and then it's up to FDA to conclude the process and give us the license.
Meanwhile, Johnson & Johnson is now conducting a late-stage trial of its vaccine candidate.
We might have results sooner than expected, but we target for results in the month of January, both for safety and efficacy.
Johnson & Johnson has announced it would allot 500 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines for poor countries. But the Philippines vaccine czar says the vaccine that the country can roll out the earliest will most likely be from China's Sinovac.
If we will be able to have some sort of the consummation of the contract when we already successfully signed the contract, they can provide it after 60 days or 90 days, meaning 2 to 3 months. If we will have a signing this month, most likely we can have it March.
But Sinovac is facing controversy after a Washington Post report revealed that its officials were previously charged with bribery. Sinovac reportedly admitted to giving more than $83,000 in bribe money to a regulatory official to expedite their vaccine certification from 2002 to 2011. The health department said the report will be investigated by the Vaccine Review Panel.
Kaya nga meron din single joint ethics review board para makita rin ito at masigurado natin na hindi tayo mabibiktima dahil po sa mga ganitong questionable transaksyon kung totoong nangyayari po yan with Sinovac.
Via Times, vital news, vibrant views for the Filipino Asian communities in Chicago. Via Times for your most interesting and exciting reading and your party coverages. Via Times has very interesting columnists. You name it, Via Times has it. Law, Filipino news, dentistry, immigration, humor, serious opinions, health, beauty, mysticism, Bata Corner, showbiz, and intelligently written editorials. Call Via Times at 773-866-0811.
Welcome to our show. And Mr. Tippett is our guest today, and he's an old, long-time friend. And Dale Tippett was invited to speak about the recent celebration of the Pearl Harbor Day. And Dale has been serving. He is the commander of Dale. Can you please introduce yourself to our viewing audience?
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you for having me on, Veronica, and my best wishes to Joe. My name is Dale Tippett. I am the commander of the 9th District of the American Legion, Department of Illinois, in addition to being a longtime friend of Veronica and Joe. But the American Legion is a veterans organization that is 101 years old, actually. It's long, it's a very, very mature organization. It started at the end of the First World War. And when the troops came home, there were no benefits, there were no jobs, there was nothing waiting for them. And we had a lot of injured service people that came home, and they got together and started the American Legion. So fast forward 100 years, our mission, our goal is outlined in something that we call the Preamble of the Constitution of the American Legion. And it's a 100-word statement that outlines what we stand for, which is basically God and country. And we remember those who've served and our culture and so many other wonderful things. So that's a real shortcut to the American Legion. And the Department of Illinois, we have approximately 70,000 members in Illinois. Worldwide, we've got, this is part of the United States, and also we've got American Legion in the Philippines and other places. But we've got approximately 2 million members worldwide. So it's quite a large, it's actually the largest veteran service organization that there is.
Large. Well, with this service, you just celebrated the Pearl Harbor anniversary. How many years ago was that?
79 years ago. It's been 79 years. December 7th, 1941.
Were you born around?
No, that was before me. I'm from the 50s. I was born in the 1950s. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a child of the rock and roll, the original rock and roll era.
And you have been a member of the American Legion for how long now?
It's getting to be a while. It's over 25 years. I joined in the early 1990s. I served in the U.S. Navy during the 70s, and it was quite a period of time when I came home before I got involved with the veterans organizations, which is not unusual. Many folks come home from the service and they don't join an organization right away, and that likewise happened to me.
All right, good for you. You're a patriot. Yeah,
we all are.
congratulations. But with this, let's talk about the Pearl Harbor celebration. It is a historic event in our country, and can you please tell us a little bit about what happened on the Pearl Harbor Day?
Well, I certainly can. The events that transpired on that morning, it was a Sunday morning, December 7th, 1941, and the base there at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, was caught unawares that there was an attack on the base by Imperial Japan. And so this was at the onset of World War II, and there was a strategy behind all that was going on, trying to catch the United States unawares. They knew that something would possibly be happening, but the United States did, but they didn't have all the details. So what ended up transpiring is that there was an attack at Pearl Harbor. 2,400 plus people died. There's a very solemn reminder of that if you've ever been to the USS Arizona Memorial in Pearl Harbor. It was one of the battleships that sunk, and there were 1,177 crew members aboard at that time, and 900 are still entombed in the ship right where the memorial is built. So whenever you're passing through, I visited the memorial. The ship is right there. I mean, it's right under the water, and there's 900 individuals entombed in there. When you go aboard, you think it might be something more historic in nature, but it is quite a solemn memorial, and it just calls on reverence. And we start to see the gravity of the situation. If I may, there was one gentleman who I met when I joined the American Legion, and he was older. He was a World War II veteran, and he was a survivor of Pearl Harbor. And he was a man who was born and raised in California, lived on a farm. During the Depression, deflation occurred. Of course, the economy fell apart. They happened to grow onions on his farm. And he said it got so bad that the money that they would get at the marketplace when they brought the onions to market was less than what it cost for them to ship the onions there. So the produce just rotted in the field. So they lived off of whatever they could grow, but the economy was just terrible. So he was able, fortunately, to get into the Navy in 1939. He ended up on board the USS West Virginia, which was a battleship, and it was part of Pearl Harbor's fleet at that time. And so when the planes came, he was there. And he would tell this very compelling story, because he spoke of this often after our current attack on the U.S., which was 9/11. And he brought it up to where he would say he knew exactly what those poor folks were going through in the Twin Towers when they dropped, because it was the same dynamic that happened at Pearl Harbor. He says the bombs came, the torpedoes were there, the ships blew up. Now, aboard ship, sailors generally, they don't shoot a lot of guns and so forth. Now, we have weapons of various kinds, but really most of your regular sailors, the job is to keep the ship afloat. You want to put out fires, you want to make sure that the integrity of the vessel is secure. And this gentleman, that was his battle station. His battle station was, when an emergency happened, was to go to specific areas that had doors. And these doors or hatches needed to be closed and sealed, because what would happen is that they would become a watertight, area, so the ship wouldn't sink. Well, when the attack occurred, of course, it was pandemonium, but they made it to their battle stations. He secured what he needed to secure, but the ship, the USS West Virginia, still sank. It sank partially, and they tried to get it to where it would sink straight down and not on an angle. So they did the best they could to control this. Well, what they found out, and this bothered this man all the way until he passed away, was they discovered that they had locked sailors down below decks, and they were trapped underneath, and they survived the attack, but they died later. And so they left notes, they scratched notes on the bulkhead walls, the walls of the below decks. This was a horrible, horrible event. And that I can attest to. That's an eyewitness account of a sailor who was there, who told that story to me and others repeatedly over the years that I knew him. So it was a horrible thing. The one thing that that's a common denominator, and I think that your audience might, they probably have learned it in school, but you know, Pearl Harbor was attacked, but so was the Philippines. They were attacked at the same time. So this was a coordinated, attack, and it ushered us into World War II,
Yes.
formally.
Correct. And many people really connect the Pearl Harbor attack to the Philippines attack. And that was history right now. But Dale, maybe before we sign off, what maybe you can tell us something about what you think we learned from that history.
Oh, well, there's no real winners in war, that's for sure. Human nature doesn't change. And there's conflict always has been and always will be. But I believe that we have to judge those kind of unfortunate instances in our history by how the victor treats the victim or the one who's lost after the shooting stops. And I think it's a testimony to the Western culture. Which same thing happened in Germany that happened in Japan. Once the war ended, we went back in, our allies together, to rebuild these economies and to go ahead and change the ideology of hate and violence and et cetera to one of cooperation. And we've seen that. That's history too, the way that the Japanese economy came 10 years after the war. I mean, there's pictures of 20 years after the war where the whole nation was rebuilt. It was thriving. And that's due to it makes sense? Makes sense?
Rise from the ashes.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And okay, congratulations for your role in this, with your post in this event. And last Monday, right? You celebrated last Monday.
It was last Monday on December 7th, the anniversary. And we had representation, what I call the 9th District roll call, which is whoever can come on out because we're in the midst of a pandemic. We're not having meetings per se. They're very few and far between, but we are keeping in touch through technology, of course. And outside, we have a multitude of memorials that we can drive by, and a few of us can do a ceremony at. And we can go ahead and promote that so the community can see that the American Legion is out here, and we are all about, God and country, as I said. And one of the problems that we've got, we do a lot with our schools, a lot. And unfortunately, these instances they don't have the time spent on learning this stuff that we can share often enough. So people in the neighborhoods, they just need to see us around with our hats and our uniform, whatever, and doing what we do. I have said for the longest, this is my second year as commander of the 9th District. And by the way, the 9th District contains 22 American Legion posts, and we have approximately 2,700 veterans in the 9th District. And we're part of the 1st Division, which is Cook County. And in one of our sister districts, we have the Filipino post. We have a long history, and they're looking for members. You don't have to be Filipino, but it would be pretty cool to join the Filipino post if you're a veteran and, just give out my information, Veronica. We're looking to grow. We need to grow.
Yeah. Wow, thank you. It's very, very interesting to know, and we'll spread the word. And thank you for sending some pictures to the Times News Magazine for our upcoming issue. And thank you very much for your service to the community. And thank you for gracing our show today, Mr. Commander Dale Tippett.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure, Veronica.
All right. And bye. At magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. And I hope you enjoyed our interview with Commander Dale Tippett today. Bye.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Objective Leaders Portion of the show. I am John Mauricio. This afternoon, I have a very good-looking author of a book, Legal Heroes, from Washington, D.C. No, from Washington State, Seattle, Washington, to be exact. And her name is Attorney Tamina Watson.
Thank you so much, Joe. I really appreciate being here.
Watson, is that a Bangladeshi name?
Do you know it isn't? I married a Watson, and that's how I've got the Watson name. I had a different name when I was, under my parents.
Okay, let's talk about the book, Legal Heroes in the Trump Era. What's that mean? Legal heroes. Who are the heroes?
Well, thank you so much for asking. You know, in the last 4 years, we have seen an administration that had been really curtailing civil rights and changing policies and regulations without changing the law. That was really affecting almost everybody in this country. And we saw a lot of lawyers really step up to the challenge to help vulnerable people. As an immigration lawyer, I saw that firsthand. Everybody will remember the Muslim ban, where lawyers flocked to every airport that they could, wherever they lived. And it started from there. And so the book highlights the lawyers who stepped up beyond their day jobs, beyond their comfort level, to really protect the rule of law and due process. There are 13 lawyers highlighted in the book, but there are just a handful of examples of what lawyers have done in the last 4 years. So I've named them legal heroes because they are heroes, and they are ordinary people like you and me, who are basically living our lives, but really felt compelled to step up, and therefore heroes.
Who are they really? Or these heroes that you talk about, who are they helping? Are they the immigrants, the illegal immigrants, the people coming in, or like the one in the borders now? They're assembling a whole lot of immigrants willing to venture into America. Are you guys helping those people?
We're helping almost everybody. So the book highlights different areas of law. So the lawyers that are in the book are lawyers who are immigration lawyers, but also lawyers who have been helping in the protests that we saw this summer. There's a lawyer who helps with the environmental challenges that we face. So there are different aspects of the law covered. But you're right, immigration is a big part of this book, simply because I'm an immigration lawyer. I've seen this firsthand. I've worked in this area, and I've seen lawyers who don't practice immigration law, but felt compelled to help. So who are we helping? Almost everybody. You know, if you think about the Muslim ban, initially, people who are coming into the country who are legal permanent residents, green card holders, they were not allowed to get off the planes and back into the country. The initial ban was banning almost everybody from those 7 countries. Over time, what we have seen with the executive orders, in addition to the travel ban, was affecting people who've been living in the United States with or without papers. And you're right, there are people at the border. These people have a right to asylum laws. Our asylum laws in the United States are based on international treaties and human rights. And suddenly we find little babies being snatched away from their parents, from their mothers. And they have a right to due process to say, hey, my life is under threat. And we saw that these people were being treated very differently than past administrations. So the lawyers in the book represent all types of legal areas, but also the question that you ask is very important. They are helping people who are at the border as well.
Well, the lawyers and attorneys throughout the United States are only limited to what the law dictates. You cannot do anything beyond what the law dictates. So how do you go around all that kind of thing? If the law is very prohibitive and you cannot do anything, so what do you do? I mean,
that's a really, really good question, because the lawyers are actually working within the law. The law says these are the people who have the right to whatever that right is. And let's just take asylum as an example. The law provides that right to apply for an asylum, not a right to asylum, but at least to apply. And the trouble that we have seen with this administration is they are going around the law. When a law gets passed in this country, it gets passed through Congress. It has to go through the House, and then has to go through the Senate, and then has to go through the White House. But we found that this administration, time and time again, bypassed Congress to reinterpret the law, sometimes illegally. Actually, most of the times illegally. That's why we've seen so many challenges. Just on Friday, they had new rules come out, reinterpreting the law as it stands. So the lawyers that are stepping up are working within the law, trying to make sure that the people who are applying with the current law get those protections. It's the administration that is getting around the law.
Yeah, well said. What are you advocating for the American people? What do you want them to do?
Well, there are polls and polls and polls that suggest and confirm that the American people want to see immigration reform. American people understand the value that immigrants bring into this country. They are in the healthcare industry, they are our nurses, they are our doctors. They are in the grocery stores, they are picking our apples. They are at the high-tech protectors at the moment. We are on Zoom at the moment. The Zoom founder is an immigrant. There is no question immigrants bring value to America. So American people benefit from the talent and the hard work, the labor that immigrants bring in. And that is recognized. And so they want to see immigration reform. And what we need is the American people to make sure their voices are heard, and they go to their congressperson, to their senator, and say, we want to see immigration reform, so that when there is a new administration next year, we can see immigration reform.
Okay, with that, what message does your book bring to politics in Washington, D.C.? Are you going to influence the politicians?
I would love for the politicians to read my book, but the book is written not only for the politicians and not only for lawyers, but it's written also for people like you and Veronica and all your listeners and viewers, because all of us can make a difference. You don't have to be a lawyer to make a difference. If there's something that is troubling you about our society, if something is compelling you to take action, don't sit back anymore. We all need to be part of the solution. COVID-19 has disrupted our lives in ways we have never seen before. There are people who don't have food on the table, who are facing eviction from their houses. There are people who are struggling with schooling. There are so many things that ordinary people can do to make an extraordinary difference. So the point is, pick up the book, read the inspirational stories, so you know that you have the power within you to make a difference.
Yeah. What if you guys, the lawyers of America, immigration lawyers of America, did a wonderful job and you're getting all these people throughout the world. What would happen to America? Aren't we going to be overpopulated with immigrants?
That's a really good question. That's why we need checks and balances. We need immigration reform so that all of these issues are looked upon as a whole. You know, immigrants are absolutely beneficial to the United States. If you go back in history, America was founded and started by people who were persecuted for religious reasons. They came to the United States and started these settlements. And then if you think about history and you think about the East Coast being connected to the West Coast, it was the rail tracks. But who built those rail tracks? It was the Asians, that Asian labor force that was brought in. But the moment we had those rail tracks, we had the Chinese Exclusion Act saying, well, you know, you've done that. We have too many immigrants. We're not going to have you anymore. You know, and that is a pattern of history that shows that there's always been a fear of immigrants. But the truth is that without immigrants, we wouldn't have the country that we have today. If you think about all these global names, whether it's WhatsApp, just think about our daily lives today. People are using WhatsApp on their phone to communicate with people all around the globe. People are using Zoom every day for whatever reason, whether you're homeschooling or having a doctor's appointment or your appointment with your psychologist or your lawyer, they're all happening through Zoom. If you think about going to the grocery store and you're looking at all the products in your grocery store, these immigrants are either picking them from the farm or bringing them from farm to the store. If you think about the milk you're drinking, the immigrants are a part of that force. You know, every day, the phone, if you look at your phone, the network, the software, the hardware, all of these are being maintained by immigrants. Immigrants don't necessarily need to be in America these days. Canada is an example of it. Canada is welcoming them and then making immigration easier for them. In the last 4 years, we saw every time there was a new restriction in place of immigration policies here, Canada went the opposite way. They said, oh, you know, America's making it longer to get immigration benefits. We are going to make it quicker. You know, the concern that you raise is important, but that's why we need immigration reform. Every time, we haven't seen immigration laws change since the 1960s, but the two big changes we saw in the early 2000s and 1990s made the law restricted in a way that now we have people trapped. People don't necessarily want to be trapped. We have 11 million undocumented people in this country. And the rhetoric, send them out so they can come back legally. The trouble is the law is not in a way designed to let them come back legally. So if we need these policies to change so that we can have immigration reform that is balanced and is fit for a modern day society.
Isn't the immigration reform more or less like bias to skilled immigrants?
It isn't actually. So in 1960, when we had immigration reform finally done, family unity was one of the biggest aspects of it. So, you know, there is family-based immigration and employment-based immigration. What we need in immigration reform is a way to marry the two in that is fit for our modern day lifestyle. You know, we're in a globalized world where workforce is all, you know, interchangeable in many ways. You know, people are remote working from Europe for American startup companies. You know, there are ways in which immigration reform can meet all of these challenges and make it fit for a modern day America.
Okay, look like our time is up. Last word to our viewing audience from the legal heroes in the Trump era.
Well, thank you so much again, Joe, for having me. I hope people will pick up the book. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and other places. And then do your part. We're all part of America, and we all have some sort of action to take to be part of the solution.
Okay, thank you very much.
for sharing our Sunday with us. And again, good luck to you, Legal Heroes of America. And I hope you read the book. It's all over Amazon. Okay? Get it and be informed. Again, this is John Mauricio. Thank you for sharing your Sunday with us, and mabuhay.
It's more fun in the Philippines.
This is Janet Jordy at Global Inspiration. Our guest this afternoon is a friend of mine, and she is a successful realtor, a small business entrepreneur, and a mother of a son, an only child, and also she volunteers to nonprofit organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Rose Padayhag Paul. Rose, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here, Ate Janet.
Thank you. So, from where are you in the Philippines?
Actually, I grew up in Iligan City in Mindanao. So then I moved in Cebu when I was 17.
Okay.
That's where I come from.
Okay. So where are you? You are in Wisconsin. What city are you from?
I come from Wauwatosa, Wisconsin.
Okay. So how long have you been in America?
I've been here 10 years and 5 months.
10 years.
So,
Oh, that's a
yeah.
long time. 10 years.
A
So
decade.
yeah. So I know you grew up in the Philippines. You came from, I would say, a middle class family. Can you give me more details about that?
Growing up in the Philippines, I grew up in a poor family.
Okay.
Grew up with fisherman family. My grandma is a fisherman, wife, I say. Vendors also, fish vendors. I am, let us say, I am the adopted and the youngest daughter of my grandma. So my mom is the sixth out of seven and the youngest child, and she has me when she was 17. So a teenager mom.
Okay.
So when she gave birth to me, that's where my grandma took care of me until she left home when I was 8 months old just to find a job. So then from 8 months old to I was 17, that's grandma's,
Okay.
That's my
So you're a grandma or a Lola's girl.
I
So,
am. Yeah.
So when was your last visit to the Philippines?
Oh my gosh, since the day I left 10 years and 5 months ago.
Oh, so you haven't been to the Philippines yet?
Yes, I haven't been home because actually I don't have nobody to really, visit home in the Philippines. My
Okay.
family is already here. So
Okay. So you haven't visited the Philippines for 10 years, more than 10 years. Can you give me 2 items that you really miss about or from the Philippines?
Oh, in the Philippines, I love our country. I
Okay.
miss the travel, the destination we have, the food we have, and our simple life with all the smiles, no matter what. I'm like, I miss those things.
Okay. So you have, I would say it is a gift. You have a gift to convince people because I consider you a successful realtor. Did you try to be a realtor? Did you do your job? Did you do a research about how to be a realtor, or did it just happen and you just love it? Can you tell us
It's a
about
very
that?
good question. It's just happened. Actually, I'm not a real estate or not a finance. My degree is a computer science and programming. And basically, it's so funny. I graduated as a cum laude and become a teacher for 2 months. And
Okay.
this, finding yourself, finding what to do. I quit my job. And then after quitting my job, my friends like, hey, you have a high degree. You are one of the desirable. Why you quit your job and you are jobless? So I said, well, I don't know what to do. So she offered me, actually, my friend offered me a job. She said, are you okay for a secretarial? But it's a real estate. It's a manager from developer, and I think you will love that. And I said, sure, I will try. So this is like, out of my mind to become a realtor. It's just when I become a secretary and fall in love with houses and all of that, and I said, this is it. This is what I'm looking for. I know it's hard, but you can make it. And that's how I started 2003, way back in Cebu, Philippines.
Oh, so you started as a realtor 2003 in the Philippines.
Yes,
So,
and become one of my hobby to look at houses after that.
yeah. So you're now in America. What does it take to be a realtor? I consider you a successful realtor. What does it take to be a realtor in America?
Actually, in America, you have to embrace the change because it's way different than us in the Philippines. Also, the patience and being a realtor here in United States, they will consider you as the business owner. So being a business owner, you know what it takes? You have to put up money. You have to get your credentials, go to school. The most thing is you have to extend your patience and perseverance.
We would like to welcome all of you to Baladna Jewelry. We have a very big selection of 21 karat gold jewelry imported from the Middle East, from Dubai, Saudi, and Bahrain. And we have a very big selection of diamond. We offer free financing for 6 months, and we have a layaway system which you can leave your stuff for 3 months. We repair gold and we buy old gold. Welcome to Baladna Jewelry.
Salamat po.
Good afternoon. This is Bridget Karina Quetter bringing you this week's local news from our community. Treasurer Maria Papas released a study which shows that the areas in Cook County where delinquent properties are a severe problem are losing population, experiencing larger property tax increases, and confronting high levels of violent crime, all of which drives down the number of bids at the scavenger sale auction. The study looked at the properties in Chicago, wards, and suburbs that were offered at the 7 scavenger sales held from 2007 to 2019. The 60-page study found, in Chicago, 11,955, or 50% of violent crimes in 2019 took place in the top 13 wards for the most properties offered at the scavenger sale. 12 of those 13 wards also lost population. The top 16 suburbs with the most properties offered at the scavenger sale also lost population. In those suburbs, taxes rose 183% on properties offered at the scavenger sale, compared with an 83% increase on all properties in those suburbs. Out of 145,030 times that a property was offered at the scavenger sale, the taxes were sold to private buyers only 8,449 times, or 5.8%. By the time of the scavenger sale, my office has already collected 99.77% of property taxes, Papa said. The goal of the scavenger sale is not to collect delinquent taxes, but to find new owners and get the properties back on the tax rolls. Illinois Secretary of State Jesse White is announcing that driver services facilities statewide will remain closed for in-person transactions until Tuesday, January 5th, 2021, due to the continuing COVID-19 pandemic. White is reminding the public that expirations for driver's licenses and ID cards have been extended until June 1st, 2021. He reminded the public that 7 facilities will continue offering drive-through services, license plate sticker transactions only. These facilities were selected due to the configuration of the buildings that allowed for drive-through transactions. The National Asian Pacific American Women's Forum, NAPAWF, held December 11, 2020. Awake, Aware, Activated, the Georgia runoff rally for record AAPI turnout, to bring awareness within the Asian American and Pacific Islander AAPI community to the critical importance of the runoff election and get people excited to get out the vote through text and phone banking. NAPAWF has been reaching out to AAPI women voters in every Georgia county. Razor-thin margins in Georgia's general election shows the importance of every single vote and the strength of the AAPI voting bloc when we use our power collectively. In the general election, 6.6% of first-time voters in Georgia were AAPI voters, even though they only account for 2.5% of registered voters in the state. NAPAWF is building on that momentum. The Illinois Board of Higher Education today released public university enrollment data indicating enrollment numbers holding steady despite nationwide declines in new and returning students due to COVID-19. Overall enrollment in the state was up by 0.2%, or 417 students compared to fall of 2019, with 182,586 students currently enrolled in public universities. A nationwide snapshot of fall enrollment shows higher education down by 1.8% compared to 2019, per the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center. I am extremely proud of the resiliency of our students, our institutions, their leadership and faculty, who all worked hard to make this fall reopening as successful as possible. There was talk over the summer that college enrollments could be down 25% across the nation, and Illinois has proven that its students continue to stay the course, IBHE Chair John Atkinson said. Enrollment in our public universities remain largely steady, which is a reflection of both Governor Pritzker's continued commitment to higher education funding and the planning and preparation of the IBHE Reopening Committee, working with our public, private, and community college leaders to reopen safely to students. Federal regulators on Wednesday sued to force a breakup of Facebook as 48 states and districts accused the company in a separate lawsuit of abusing its market power in social networking to crush smaller competitors. This landmark antitrust lawsuits, announced by the Federal Trade Commission and New York Attorney General Letitia James, marked the second major government offensive this year against seemingly untouchable tech behemoths. The Justice Department sued Google in October for abusing its dominance in online search and advertising, the government's most significant attempt to buttress competition since its historic case against Microsoft 2 decades ago. Amazon and Apple also have been under investigation in Congress and by federal authorities for alleged anti-competitive conduct. The image of Our Lady of Guadalupe will be temporarily removed from the Shrine of Our Lady Guadalupe in Des Plaines on Friday, December 11th at 10 a.m. Only the shrine clergy, staff, and some volunteers, led by Reverend Ezekiel Sanchez, will be present for the solemn removal of the image, followed by a short procession to the Marian Chapel to follow immediately. A bouquet of roses will be placed where the image currently rests. The image of the Virgin will be returned on Sunday, December 13th at 7:30 a.m. during a morning prayer service. New rules aimed at better safety and efficiency for the amusement ride industry and its customers were finalized this month by the Illinois Department of Labor. The rules, which have been in the works since 2019, guide how the IDLE will enforce the Amusement Ride and Attraction Safety Act. My staff and I have worked to update these rules in consultation with our Amusement Ride and Safety Board to reflect changes in law and best practices, said Illinois Department of Labor Director Michael Klinick. It is imperative that families go to amusement parks and other sites featuring rides and attractions, that they feel safe doing so. We believe these rule changes will help bring the peace of mind of concerning safety. That's all for today. Thank you for watching our news this week. This is Bridget. See you next time.
Okay, ready guys? Introducing our new Energy Star certified washer and dryer. Thanks to rebates from ComEd.
Yay! We love rebates! Ay, Daniel, we are famous.
Get used to it. When you use less water and electricity, people notice.
I can get used to that.
So can I.
Take it easy.
Get rebates from ComEd on select Energy Star certified appliances and find even more savings with the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program. ComEd, powering lives.
So since many families may gather for Christmas dinner, the hosts, the best way to host the guest is to involve tactics and updates that you have already made for Thanksgiving, if you have already. But here are some things you can do to make a Christmas dinner a little bit safer. So you want to create seating arrangements, that's right, that put as much distance between your household and your visitors, even a separate table if you can. If possible, outside is best and can alleviate much risk. You can also arrange your meals in advance and skip a family style or buffet-like setup this year. Have only one person be designated as designated as the runner or server so that most everyone remains seated during the dinner. Wear masks when you're not eating and make sure materials are available to your guests to clean their hands throughout the evening. You don't have to furiously scrub or disinfect each and every surface as soon as they're touched, but consider leaving disinfectant wipes or sprays in your bathroom. Guests can clean their hands, then spray or wipe down the handles, the faucets, or doorknobs before they walk out. Open up those bathroom doors and windows if possible too. Well, sitting down for a television special or for quiet chat before or after dinner isn't an automatic no this year. But you should avoid any singing, shouting, or a game night where you need to share cards or pieces. That goes our karaoke, Christmas karaoke, right? But safety tips to keep in mind for overnight guests: you want to adhere what officials are saying. They define close contact to a sick individual as anything longer than 15 minutes in a 24-hour period. Every kind of visitor brings some risks into your home, but overnight visitors can bring in an unsurmountable risk if they must share living quarters with you. So the recent CDC guidelines that has issued illustrates that people are doing this, which is not a good idea. It may be safer for your own family to simply ask your guests to stay by a hotel nearby and keep exposure to others in the building to a minimum than to invite them into your living space. You should also consider canceling paying hosts or overnight guests if you don't have the space to offer individual bedrooms and bathrooms. And the guest space should be their own space. That's really going to help decrease your risk if you're not sharing things as much as possible. But it would be best if they didn't have to be in your home for the entire visit. Just come for the activities you're planning outdoors if possible again, and then return home or back to their hotel. The key here is spending as much time as possible outside or in a centralized room, the dining room, a living room, and then retreating to an individual bedrooms or bathrooms as soon as possible. The shorter the interactions, the less likely a visitor to your home will be able to spread viable virus particles onto surfaces or into the air around you. So is gift giving canceled this year? I wouldn't say so. It shouldn't be just based because of what's been going on, but you shouldn't hold back, in other words, from gift giving present or accepting a gift if you're worried about COVID-19, because the disease is thought to primarily spread in close contact with other people and not by surfaces. So rather, you'll have to focus on making sure that your hands are clean and avoid rubbing your eyes, your nose, your mouth if they're not, before physically handing it to the recipient. So it's not just the primary way that COVID-19 spread, unless that person is actively sneezing and coughing on your package when they give it to you, and the chances that the active virus is living on the box are fairly low to basically non-existent. So are you wearing your masks during a gift-giving sessions, and is everyone's hands clean? Well, that's what you should be focusing on, and have that question in your head. Well, the risk is indeed low. Something that you can do is wrap your gift earlier so that the item inside remains protected from any surface germs long before it's time to exchange. That way, you can remove the wrappings, wash your hands, and then simply feel free to unbox use the gift right away. These Christmas traditions and celebrations are being canceled. The CDC has yet to release updated guidelines in which Christmas activities are considered highest risk during the pandemic. But we will update you with this new information, and so you will be able to know which is what. The annual German-inspired Christmas markets by the Kindler Markets has been canceled this year, if you already know that. They've managed to go digital during the pandemic, though, as organizers pivoted a digital marketplace to avoid in-person crowds, as what ABC7 reported to the local news. So you can do your online shopping there. So folks, I hope I have shed light with you on how we could keep ourselves safe while we celebrate Christmas. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. This is Melody Dizon, your Health Matters host. Thank you and goodbye.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the portion that everybody seems to be happy because we are celebrating the birthday of quite a few of our friends. Again, wishing everybody happy birthday, Ria Luz, the host of Bahay Bahay sa America in radio in Phoenix, Arizona. Happy birthday, Ria. Dennis Bermejo, our friend here in Chicago, a Hall of Famer. Florence Palmira, also a Hall of Famer. Aris Arellano, and also Jocelyn Rosero, Chicago's prettiest. That was at least 5 years ago. Happy birthday, Jocelyn. And again, this is Joe Mauricio wishing everybody happy birthday and happy winter to all. Bye.